Hey guys, Drifter here. Today I've got a video for you about media fears, or why is it that the media hypes up fear and violence so much? Why is it that every time you turn on the TV it's about something frightening, shocking, awful? Where is all the good news to report? Because our world obviously isn't made of pure violence. There are good things to report. Why is it that we don't hear about it? Going to be kind of a shorter commentary, not going to use the entire gameplay, but like every gameplay in this channel, I die in the beginning and then do much later. Basically, I'm versing a group of tryhards, as you can see through this amazing vector wallbang. However, I had some friendly subscribers offer to join up and team up with me. They just noticed me in the lobby, and I said hello, and me and the two of them versus these guys, we had some really good close matches. But anyway, I wanted to talk about media fears. The reason that the mainstream media, or any media in general, is going to only tell you bad stories is because human beings are designed to think that way, either designed by evolution or benevolence or God or whatever it is that you want to say. We are hardwired to look for problems and for solutions for those problems and for scapegoats and this sort of stuff. We are not hardwired to harp or talk about why things are good. And even if you, let's say you were designing a computer or a system or just something, that makes more sense than designing a bunch of everything is great checks. Like, if you imagine if you turned on the news and it's like, in other words, the sky is still here, a comet hasn't smashed into the earth, there is no mass hysteria, and generally people are getting healthier. What's next, Bob? Oh, the weather is pretty good, it's going to rain some places, it's going to be okay other places. That wouldn't be very interesting. It would be really weird to have somebody spoon-feeding you every day how great something is, when the reality is the only reason you watch the news to begin with is to watch out for potential threats. And this goes back to our sort of caveman evolutionary days and how we kind of grew up. Our brains don't recognize the good things as much because they're not as important. Like, yeah, it's important to know that we've got food, that's great, but it's not as important to know that maybe, as to know is like, maybe there's a tiger in that bush, maybe that woolly mammoth over there is looking at you wrong. It's not as important to notice as maybe that lake has an alligator in it. These sort of things, these sort of little bits of bad news pop up really bright and fast and hard in our brains, and they demand immediate action. It's the same thing with the news. Kind of, we can use a simpler one. We can go back to like medieval times. What's more important, having some guy tell you every single day that you've got plenty of food, or the one day that the guy shows up and says, hey, we got like 1 day worth left of food and then we're gonna starve? That causes immediate action. Your brain looks for these sort of things. It looks for it in literally everything that we do. We're looking for problems. We're not looking for double checking that everything is great. It's a human psychological basis. This is kind of how we think and what we are. And the news, they know this. Well, they didn't know to begin with. They definitely know now. They employ, like, psychologists, and they do psychographics of the audience and stuff like that. But most people only watch the news when something bad is going on, when war is declared, when there's a catastrophe, when there's an outbreak, when a stupid airplane goes missing. That was not stupid, there were lives lost on that, but you know what I mean. When something out of the ordinary that's bad and unexplained happens, we peek up, we get interest, we want to know why, we want to know if it's a threat to us, we want to know if it's a threat to our family, we want to know how to safeguard ourselves, and a dozen different things, and we pay attention. Now, when we pay attention to the news, that means we watch it for longer periods of times. We're an engrossed audience. We are, especially when we're in a heightened state, we're more susceptible to advertising, and we're going to see more advertisements, which drives up the value of the advertisements on the channel considerably. So it becomes this sort of contest of the more bad news that you can get, the more the world is going to hell, the bigger audience your news network is going to have. Not only are you getting the scoops and the sort of information that people really want, which is the threats in their lives before everybody else, but you're also captivating that audience and making more money. And that's why the news is generally negative. It's a couple of different things, but it's all based on how we think and how we're sort of, just how we are as people. And if you really don't believe me, just imagine the news. If every single day they just read a list of things that were right, you would eventually, which is most things. Most days, most things are going okay and going right. The earth isn't on fire, and the apocalypse hasn't begun, so we're hanging in there. There's plenty of bad news. So instead, all they do is tell you the maybe 10 or 15 things that are bad, that are maybe threatening to you or dangerous to you or interesting to you, and you can ingest that much more easily, and it's more valuable to them. That's why it's bad news. That's why there's nothing good, and that's why why they also have a tendency to kind of make a mountain out of a molehill. That's why every time anything bad happens, it's immediately some kind of gate, some kind of catastrophe, some kind of something, so they can stretch it on out, make the threat seem really, really real and viable, and get those advertising dollars. I hope you enjoyed this short video. It's just something that I had on my head that in my mind I wanted to talk about. I hope you learned something useful. If you did, don't forget to like, favorite, and subscribe. And I think I'm going to wrap up this gameplay right now because, yeah, I sat here in this base. I thought I was going to defend this base for a long time. Nobody came. I just defended for no reason. Anyway, hope you enjoyed. Drifter out.